negotiation. It's not just, for boardrooms and massive deals.
Right? It's everywhere.
It's woven into pretty much everything we do day to day. Deciding chores, figuring out work projects, all that stuff.
And listeners, you're here because you want to get better at it, right? Get those insights fast and deep.
Exactly. So today, let's dive deep.
We're jumping into the world of high-stakes negotiation, guided by Chris Voss, former FBI hostage negotiator.
Yeah, his book, Never Split the Difference. That's our roadmap today.
And this isn't just theory. This is wisdom earned the hard way, on the front lines.
Totally.
Yeah.
Voss wasn't just studying in this stuff. He was living it, face-to-face with, bank robbers, terrorists, situations where one wrong word could be, well, fatal.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today,
Yeah.
pull out the key ideas, the actual techniques he developed under extreme pressure.
And show how anyone can use them in their job, their personal life, whatever.
Yeah, we're aiming for those real aha moments, but, without just drowning you in information.
And to kick things off, to really throw you into Voss's world. Imagine this. Here's Voss, seasoned SBI guy, right? Walks into what he thinks is just a training session, Harvard Law School.
Okay.
But it's not ordinary at all.
Hmm.
Suddenly, there's a tape recorder on the table. Two Harvard professors, Mnuchin and Bloom, are just looking at him, kind of smiling.
Oh, boy.
And one goes, completely deadpan, "We've got your son, Voss. Give us $1 million or he dies."
Wow.
The other one jumps in, "I'm the kidnapper. What are you going to do?"
Just like that.
Just like that. Can you imagine? This guy, former street cop, now FBI negotiator, facing this simulated crisis from these academic types.
His reaction must have been intense.
He said it was sheer panic at first. And that immediate gut reaction, it perfectly sets the stage for the kind of pressure he handled and the lessons he learned. Real field-tested stuff.
Yeah, that shock, that Harvard thing, it really highlights something Voss learned was crucial.
Mhm.
Negotiation isn't just logical.
Right. There's that big shift in thinking he talks about. It was a huge turning point for him and for the FBI's whole approach, really, realizing people aren't purely rational.
Yeah, he brings up Daniel Kahneman's work, the Nobel laureate.
The cognitive bias guy.
Exactly. Kahneman showed our decisions aren't just about logic and what's best for us. He and Tversky found, over 150 biases, these unconscious things steering our thoughts.
And Voss realized that the old school negotiation methods, the stuff from business schools, like getting to yes, they focus so much on rational problem solving.
But they missed something huge.
They missed the emotional side. System one thinking, Kahneman called it. That fast, intuitive, emotional part of our brain. Voss saw you have to understand and influence that.
It's such a contrast, isn't it? You've got the Ivy League focused on math and economics.
Right, the models and theories.
While the FBI was building this system based on psychology, counseling, crisis intervention, real-world human behavior under stress.
They were basically becoming experts in empathy, not just spreadsheets.
And you can see why, for a hostage negotiator, right? You can't exactly split the difference when someone's life is on the line.
No kidding. The goal is total success, winning completely, often without giving much away.
Which takes serious emotional intelligence. Voss hammers that point home, and those are the skills he wants to share.
So, okay, how do you actually tap into those emotions? Active listening is key. And the first tool he gives us is mirroring.
Now, this isn't like consciously copying every little thing someone does, right?
No, not like that. It's actually rooted in science. Isopraxism, they call it. It's this unconscious thing we do anyway, subtly mimicking speech patterns, body language, tone.
Sort of syncing up.
Exactly. It builds rapport, signals, hey, we're on the same wavelength. It taps into that basic human thing of trusting people who seem like us, overcomes that fear of difference.
And the FBI's trick for it is surprisingly simple.
Super simple. Just repeat the last 1 to 3 critical words someone just said.
That's it.
That's pretty much the core of it. There was a study by Richard Wiseman, a psychologist. He had waiters try it. Mirroring was actually more effective than just being positive or complimentary and building a connection. It just works on a subconscious level.
Voss gives an example from way back. His first bank robbery hostage situation in '93.
Oh yeah, the Chris Voss case. And there was another guy, Bobby.
Right. And even in that chaos, Voss used mirroring with Bobby.
And the thing was, Voss didn't even know exactly who Bobby was or where he was inside. Was he with Watts? Near him? Unknown. But just by mirroring some key things Bobby said, Voss kept a line open, kept him talking in a super tense situation.
And it works in everyday stuff, too, not just life or death. That story about his student.
The one with the boss wanting paper copies. Thousands of them.
Yeah. Totally outdated. So the student uses mirroring, just asks kind of inquisitively, I'm sorry, 2 copies.
And notice the tone, gentle, curious, like, help me understand this. That's the vibe.
So what happened?
Well, the boss first just brushes it off, yes, store it anywhere. But the student mirrors, again, still calm, anywhere. And that time, the boss actually pauses, thinks about it, and basically says, okay, just put them in my office, my assistant can print them later, digital is fine for backup.
Wow. All from just repeating a couple of words.
Exactly. Prompted the boss to reconsider his own request.
That mirroring thing is subtle, but powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, next up. Tactical empathy. Sounds a bit clinical.
Yeah, the name might throw you, but it's not about manipulation. It's really about understanding the other person's perspective, seeing the world their way.
So getting where they're coming from.
Right. Building trust by showing you get it. You don't have to agree with them, but you acknowledge their situation. And a key tool here is labeling.
Labeling, just calling out the emotion you see.
Pretty much. You validate their feeling by naming it. Like Voss's example, looks like you don't want to go back to jail. You're showing you recognize what they're likely feeling.
How does that help?
It's amazing how it can diffuse tension. When you
Yeah.
bring a negative emotion out into the open, like frustration or fear, and just name it calmly.
It loses its power.
Often, yeah. Or at least some of it. Think about it, if someone's obviously upset, ignoring it or getting defensive just makes it worse, right?
Totally.
But labeling it, it sounds like you're feeling frustrated by this, makes them feel heard, understood. That can calm things right down.
He tells that story about TJ, the student trying to collect money from sports fans who hadn't paid.
Right, his first approach was just aggressive, impersonal, didn't work at all, nobody paid.
Shocker.
But then he switched it up. He started acknowledging the fans, their passion, the tough economy maybe. He labeled their potential situation.
So showing some empathy.
Exactly. Without even offering discounts, just acknowledging their reality, labeling the difficulty, it changed the whole dynamic. He ended up getting payment plans from almost everyone.
That's pretty cool. Just acknowledging the negative can smooth the path. Voss even uses it in his classes, right, when he wants volunteers.
Yeah, instead of just asking and getting awkward silence, he says something like, okay, if you're worried about role-playing up here, I want to tell you in advance. It's going to be horrible.
And that works.
Apparently. He says people laugh, it breaks the tension. He labels their fear embarrassment, messing up, and it takes the sting out. Then he explains the benefits, and boom, loads of volunteers.
It's the opposite of denying it, like saying, I don't want this to sound harsh.
Exactly. That just makes you brace for harshness. He says label the fear directly. It's way more effective.
There was another story, Ryan B., the guy at the airport.
Oh yeah, the airline agent was being really aggressive, saying he'd miss his deal if he didn't fly out now.
So what did Ryan do? Get angry back?
Nope. He subtly labeled her frustration. And then, this is key, he just went silent.
Didn't argue or anything?
No. Let the label sink in after maybe 30 seconds of quiet.
Which must feel like forever in that situation.
Totally. But the agent, Wendy, she just prints him a boarding pass for an earlier flight that suddenly had seats. Even upgraded him.
To get out. All in under 2 minutes.
Yep. Silence after the label. Powerful.
It really shows these tools aren't some weird trick. They're just enhanced human interaction. We all want to feel heard.
Exactly. Voss says it's pleasing to feel the other person is listening, acknowledging you, even if they don't agree.
And that's the key point about empathy, right? It's not agreement.
Not at all. You don't have to approve of their view. Just acknowledge their situation. That often encourages them to open up more, share useful info.
Okay, so listening, empathy, labeling, super important. But now let's talk about something that feels almost opposite. The power of no.
Ah, yes. Culturally, we're pushed towards yes, aren't we? Be agreeable.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But Voss flips that. He says no is actually vital in negotiation.
Yeah, his take is interesting. He says no often starts the real negotiation. It gives the person saying it a feeling of safety, of control.
Because if you feel forced into a yes.
You resist, right? You dig your heels in. But a no can clear the air, let you have a more honest conversation.
He had that experience himself, trying to get into the FBI hostage team.
Right, early in his career. He went to Amy Bondurot, the team lead in New York, basically asked to join.
She said.
Flat no. Told him he didn't have the training, the experience, none of it.
Ouch.
But here's the twist. She didn't just shut him down. She gave him a task. Go volunteer at a suicide hotline, then come back and talk, maybe, No promises.
So the no wasn't the end, it was a challenge.
Exactly. It pushed Voss to actually learn about difficult conversation, emotional dynamics, the very stuff he needed. That initial no was crucial for his development.
He also breaks down yes, right? Says there are different kinds.
Yeah, 3 types: commitment, confirmation, and counterfeit.
Counterfeit, yes. That's the one to watch out for.
Definitely. People use it all the time just to get you off their back or to buy time, avoid conflict. It doesn't mean they actually agree or will follow through.
Unlike the whole getting to yes idea, which is about speed sometime.
Right. Voss argues the real goal isn't just a quick yes. It's persuading them in their world, guiding them so they arrive at your desired outcome but feel like it's their idea. A forced yes is worthless.
Like those annoying telemarketer calls.
Ugh, yeah. Pushing for tiny yeses. Do you like saving money when you just want to hang up? It feels manipulative.
And there was that story about his colleague, Marty Ibelsizer. The supervisor felt threatened by her.
Yeah, she was really good at her job, a top negotiator. But her success made her boss look bad, apparently, so she became a target.
And no became important for her.
She realized saying no, setting boundaries, was sometimes necessary just to protect herself, her position. It's a form of self-preservation sometimes.
In the fundraiser example, using no-oriented questions.
Oh, that's clever. Instead of asking, will you donate, which makes people defensive.
They ask things like, do you feel America's best days are ahead if things stay the same?
Exactly. Getting a no to that actually opens the conversation. It gets the person talking about their concerns, their values. Much better starting point for potentially asking for support later.
Okay, so no is powerful,
Mhm.
but there's something even better than yes.
That's what Voss says. He argues you should aim for, that's right.
That's right. How's that different from yes?
Yes can just be surface level agreement. Okay, fine. But that's right. That signals genuine understanding. Like, you get me, you see it from my perspective. It's validation.
He used it with that boxer, Brendan.
Right, the guy who was taking too many hits. Voss basically summarized Brandon's likely mindset. You seem to think dodging is cowardly, unmanly.
And Brendan said,
He paused, thought about it, then said, that's right.
ah. So it clicked for him.
Totally. He
Yeah.
understood the belief holding him back. Once he got that that's right moment, he could change his strategy. It was more than just agreeing, it was insight.
And the pharmaceutical rep with the skeptical doctor.
Same idea. Instead of pitching, she summarized his passion for patients. He goes, that's right, and boom, the whole mood shifts. He feels understood, trusts her more.
So you summarize their world accurately, and they confirm it.
Exactly. There was another student negotiating a job with his old boss. He summarized the boss's real need, someone at HQ, to bridge communication gaps. Boss says, that's right. That revealed the core motive, and the student got the job.
It clearly resonates. Voss even got emails about it, right? Someone named Emily thanking him specifically for explaining, that's right.
Yeah, people find it really clicks. It's about that feeling of being truly heard.
He mentions that Chinese saying.
Oh yeah, sleeping in the same bed but dreaming different dreams.
Perfect analogy. A quick yes doesn't mean you're actually aligned.
Exactly. You need that deeper understanding that that's right to know you're truly on the same page.
Okay, but sometimes you don't get to that's right or even yes. Sometimes the best move is walking away.
Absolutely. Which brings us to no deal is better than a bad deal.
Crucial in his line of work, obviously.
For sure. He talks about Haiti after the 2004 rebellion. Kidnapping rate was sky high.
Yeah.
And even then, he stresses, paying a ransom and not getting the person back, that's a bad deal. Worse than no deal at all.
So how do you avoid getting cornered into a bad deal when the pressure's on?
Calibrated questions. That's a huge tool for Voss.
Okay, what are those exactly?
They're open-ended questions, usually starting with how or what. They're designed to make the other side pause, think, and reveal information without you having to make demands or concessions.
Like putting the ball in their court.
Pretty much. He tells that story about Julie negotiating for her husband, Jose, who was kidnapped in Ecuador.
How did she use calibrated questions?
She just kept asking how questions. The demand was huge, so she'd ask, how am I supposed to get that kind of money? How can we possibly do that?
And it worked.
It did two things. It gradually drove the price down because they had to justify it or suggest solutions, and critically, it bought time, valuable time.
Which leads to his golden rule of negotiation.
Right. It's not about being liked. It's about getting what you came for. But liking, rapport, that is the shortcut to getting there. Build that understanding with empathy, labeling, calibrated questions. Your odds go way up.
Gotcha. And it's not always just you and the person across the table, is it?
Rarely. There are almost always other people involved. Stakeholders, influencers. Voss calls them level 2 players, people behind the scenes.
And you need to think about them, too.
Absolutely. If you want your deal to actually stick, to be implemented, you have to figure out who else is affected and what they need or fear.
Yeah, that example of a training contract falling apart.
Yeah, because they didn't talk to the actual end users, the people getting the training. They didn't address their concerns. The deal looked good on paper, but failed in reality.
So you need to ask questions like,
Calibrated questions again. How does this affect everybody else? How much support does this have from the team not on this call? How do we make sure the people executing this are on board?
being a decision architect, he calls it.
Exactly, shaping the whole process, not just the immediate conversation.
Okay, but what about when you're dealing with, well, difficult people, liars, or just aggressive types?
Happens all the time, his advice. Default back to those what and how questions, especially with aggression.
Why those?
They let you push back gently, make them think, without you giving ground or making counteroffers too early. You stay in control. Aaron's negotiation with that aggressive kidnapper.
Right. What happened there?
He just kept hitting him with, what and how? What happens if we don't pay? How do we know he's okay? When the money runs out, what will happen then?
And that constant questioning.
Eventually led the kidnapper to implicitly promise not to hurt the hostage, just by making him think through the consequences. It diffused the aggression and got a concession.
And the rule of three. What's that about?
That's about confirming agreement. Get them to agree to the same thing or confirm they understand something at least 3 times in the conversation.
Using different methods.
Yeah. Maybe they say yes once, then later you summarize and get it. That's right. Then maybe you ask a calibrated how question about implementation, like how will we handle X, and their answer confirms it again, locks it in.
Okay, makes sense. So you've done all this, built rapport, maybe got a, that's right. Now you need to close the deal.
And you can't let up now. Stay focused right to the end.
Those how questions still useful here.
Absolutely. Keep asking them. It keeps the other side engaged, makes them solve your problems. And a great one is, how am I supposed to do that? Or how can I do that?
Which is basically a nice way of saying no.
Exactly. It forces them to adjust, to maybe offer concessions, to bid against themselves, essentially.
Like when Voss bought that truck.
Classic example. He made a low offer, offered cash.
Yeah.
And then every time the seller came down a bit, Voss just calmly said, I'm sorry, I just can't do that. Or, how am I supposed to do that?
And just waited.
Yep. That silence puts the pressure back on the seller. Eventually, the seller met Voss's price. Gentle persistence, not being afraid of that awkward pause.
Okay, so those are some core techniques. He also talks about different negotiator types, briefly.
Yeah, it's a helpful framework. Analysts, logical, data-driven, hate surprises. Accommodators, relationship-focused, easy to agree with but might hide issues. Assertives, direct, want to win, respond well to, that's right.
And most people are a mix.
Right. Hybrids. Knowing the dominant style can help you tailor your approach a bit. Like, give an analyst data, focus on the relationship with an accommodator, let an assertive feel they've steered things.
Good to keep in mind. Now, anchoring. That's a big one in negotiation theory.
Huge. Experienced negotiators often start with a really extreme offer, high or low, the anchor.
Designed to throw you off balance.
Totally. Voss says you need to prepare mentally for that first offer. Don't react emotionally. Use it as a chance to gather more info before you counter.
Like Farouk, the MBA student.
Yeah, he needed funding. Instead of asking for a reasonable amount, he anchored with 0. Asked for basically nothing up front. Then used calibrated questions to explore possibilities. It completely reframed the discussion, and he ended up getting the funds. Extreme anchor, then questions.
It's about messing with the zoopia, right? The zone of possible agreement.
Exactly. Skilled negotiators often start way outside the likely zoopia to pull the final agreement closer to their end. And prospect theory comes in here, too.
Remind me.
People hate losing more than they like winning. We're more motivated to avoid a loss than to achieve an equivalent gain.
Right. So how do you use that?
Well, you can anchor emotions low. Voss gives the example. Mention a $2,000 opportunity they just missed, then offer $500 for something else. Now losing that $500 feels worse because it's framed against the bigger loss.
Clever. And sometimes let them anchor first.
Yeah, that gives you information about their expectations. In kidnapping cases, Voss would use really low initial offers to deliberately bend the kidnapper's reality about what was possible, then use questions to slowly work upwards.
And that tactic of pushing hard on non-salary stuff.
Oh yeah, in job offers. Be pleasantly persistent on things like vacation time, title, project assignments. If they genuinely can't give you those, they might feel obligated to compensate by bumping up the salary offer instead. Give them somewhere else to concede.
Okay, one last big concept. Black swans.
The unknown unknowns, the things you don't know, that can completely change the game.
Like that bank robber, Griffin.
Chilling story. Everyone knew robbers didn't kill hostages on a deadline like that. It wasn't rational, but he did. Total black swan, defied the known rules.
So you have to stay open to the completely unexpected.
Exactly. Don't get locked into assumptions. People often won't tell you the crucial piece of information, the black swan, unless you dig for it with the right kind of questions, the right approach.
He mentions different types of leverage, too.
Yeah, positive leverage, they need what you have. Negative leverage, you can take something away from them. And normative leverage, using their own standards, their own sense of fairness or consistency against them.
And finding your religion is key here.
That's Voss's term for their deep-seated values, their core beliefs, what drives them beyond the obvious stuff. Uncovering that normative valuation gives you huge leverage.
Like with Watson, the tobacco farmer threatening to blow up his tractor.
Perfect example. They realized his religion wasn't just about money. It was about being heard, about fairness for farmers. Understanding that allowed them to connect and de-escalate.
How do you figure out someone's religion?
Listen carefully to everything. Review what you hear. Use backup listeners if you can. Look for themes, inconsistencies. And the similarity principle helps people trust people they see as being like them.
And when someone just seems crazy.
Voss says that's often a flag. It usually means you're missing something. A hidden constraint, a hidden desire. Maybe they're working with bad information, garbage in, garbage out.
Like the ex-employee demanding commissions he wasn't owed.
Right, he wasn't crazy, he just had bad info. Or the Coca-Cola guy acting weirdly, turned out he was losing influence internally, a hidden constraint.
Or the student using labels with a real estate broker.
Yeah, build empathy, got the broker talking, and uncovered crucial info about building costs and cap rates that changed the whole negotiation. It's about looking deeper.
Okay, wow. We've covered a ton. Let's try and wrap this up. Key takeaways from Voss.
Emotional intelligence is paramount. You got to understand the feelings involved.
Active listening, mirroring, labeling, huge tools for that.
Don't be afraid of no.
Yeah.
Use it strategically. Aim for that's right, not just yes.
Calibrated how and what questions are your best friend.
Understand their world, their religion. Look out for those black swans.
And always, always remember, no deal is better than a bad deal.
Yeah. Ultimately, it's about listening well, speaking clearly, treating people with respect.
But also being clear about what you need and where your lines are. Honesty.
Right. It's that balance.
So, final thought then. Think about all those little negotiations you have every single day. Maybe at home, at work, even ordering coffee.
Yeah, they're everywhere when you start looking.
What if you tried just one of these things? Mirroring someone's last few words. Labeling an emotion you notice. Asking, how am I supposed to do that?
What might happen? What could you learn?
Maybe truly understanding other people. Maybe that's the real key. Not just of better deals, but, unlocking unexpected paths, deeper connections. Something to think about.